Hey everybody, I'm Bob Ward. I am joined here with Elyse Hershon, Boston defense attorney. We are covering the Brian Walshe murder trial. We just had closing arguments today. We're recording this on Friday, and we have a podcast. We're analyzing weekly all the developments in the case, but we wanted to get your take on what happened today. The defense rested yesterday, closing arguments today. You were sitting with me in the courtroom.
Yep.
What's your impressions of what you heard there in closing arguments today?
I heard a lot of typing. There was a lot of media there.
Really was. Getting a lot of attention, isn't it?
It's getting a lot of attention. Closing arguments really are the best part of a trial. It really is, because it weaves everything together, and sometimes there's pieces of information that you don't know why it got introduced into evidence, and then you have the answers during closings. I do think there were a lot of things that were still unanswered in closings today. Like the defense was saying he didn't kill her because there was no blood spatter in the house. But then I'm thinking, well, a violent death doesn't have to include blood. It could be asphyxiation. It could be any sort of type of death, or she could have been killed somewhere else. Or it could have been a medical event. And I think the Commonwealth did not even touch on how he killed her. They just went forward with, look at his behavior, look at what he did, look where he shopped, what he bought, the Google searches, and his motives, and he did it. So I thought it was unusual that we still really don't know how she died.
Yeah, there's a lot, and the reason we don't know is because Anna Walshe herself, her body has never been found.
Exactly.
And it's two different takes on the same event, right? And two different strategies in there. The defense being very specific, saying this is what happened. She died naturally on New Year's Day, 2023. They had a great night, a great party. Brian was cleaning up the kitchen for an hour or so, came back to bed, and Anna was dead. And that's what happened. And he panicked, and then everything happened after that. The prosecution, on the other hand, keeping it kind of vague and asking you to look at the entire picture. Don't just look at one thing. Look at everything. Look at the Google searches. Look at the video. Look at what we pulled out of the dumpster. So the jury, has two different ways to look at this. If you look at it from the defense's point of view, you're right. No one knows how Anna Walshe died, or if she died violently. The defense has introduced an idea that she just died naturally. And the prosecution saying, no, look, there's a knife with blood on it, and if you don't think that had anything to do with it, we've got all these tools with Anna's DNA on it. Kind of interesting way.
It's very interesting, and you bring up an excellent point. It's almost a reversal of roles, because usually it's the prosecution that says, we proved beyond a reasonable doubt that this is exactly what happened. And actually the prosecution is saying, we don't know how he killed her, but we know he killed her. And the defense, which has no burden of proof, and we don't ever have to present an alternate theory. The defense presented an alternate theory. They didn't present any witnesses to back it up, but they said, what the prosecution is saying didn't happen. This is what happened. So usually the defense is just saying, we don't know what happened, that's reasonable doubt. But they're actually saying, no, it was a sudden medical event. So it's almost a reversal where there's more ambiguity on the prosecution side and more questions. And there could be doubt there.
Do you think the jury wanted to hear from Brian Walshe?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
We do have to keep reminding ourselves that there's a constitutional right not to incriminate yourself. And that doesn't mean that he would have incriminated himself on a murder. He did lie to police. He misled police. And he did dismember her body. He pled to improper disposal. So he has a right not to get on the stand and get eviscerated for that, and he would have. It doesn't just have to be you're guilty of whatever you're being charged with and on trial for. So we all wanted to hear from him. I think it was very unlikely, especially with this federal case, and there was so much explaining he would have had to do in grisly details. For him to have taken the stand, it would have turned into a circus.
Yeah, it would have turned into a circus, even bigger than... I don't think it's a circus right now. I think this is a high-profile murder trial. It's getting a lot of media attention, but it's not over-the-top media attention. At least I feel, being a member of the media right now. So no verdict today. They deliberated for 3 hours and 45 minutes by my estimation. They came back with one question. They wanted to know about a number on a particular exhibit. But it seemed like they were getting organized. It didn't seem like they had some serious questions about we can't tell which way they're leaning from that question.
That's exactly right. And when we spoke earlier as well, we had discussed that it would likely take them a while just to get the exhibits, to organize them, and to go through all of them. There's over 200 exhibits for a murder trial. That's not uncommon. There's usually hundreds of exhibits. And even if the jury is leaning one way or the other in terms of a verdict, they're usually going to take the time to go through the exhibits. They were admitted for a reason, and they want to take a closer look. Probably they're going to spend some more time on certain things. But there's some surveillance video, and there's also some photos that didn't actually get shown through the trial, but they were admitted as evidence. So it's going to take them a while to go through.
There was also talk in closings about the text messages that Anna sent Will Fasto the night of New Year's Eve. And the defense said, you're going to see those, and they're disturbing.
Right.
Just, don't base your case on these text messages. We haven't seen those text messages.
Right.
And the defense is characterizing it as disturbing.
Right, and we may never see them. We're not going to see them at this point.
One important thing to note is that Brian Walshe has already pleaded guilty to 2 charges in this case, lying to police and disposing of the body. So they're not contending that that's him in the video getting rid of evidence or going to Lowe's and all that sort of thing. But the jury does not know that he pleaded guilty. I'm surprised by that. What about you?
So it's a rule of evidence that a person's prior bad acts or convictions are not admissible at trial, usually unless they take the stand. So those guilty pleas would only have come in as guilty pleas if he took the stand, and that would be fodder for cross. It begs the question, why did he plead guilty to those 2 charges when it didn't come into evidence and the entire trial basically was still about the dismemberment, which is not what he's on trial for. So if there was an advantage to him pleading guilty, like it would have excluded evidence, disturbing evidence from coming into the trial that the jury wouldn't see because he did that, that I would understand. But he pled guilty and all that grisly evidence came in. I'm not quite sure the basis for that approach.
The only thing I can come up with is that maybe that they're just limiting it to make this about first-degree murder, all or nothing, rolling the dice, and we'll see what happens. Let the jury decide. We're running out of time, but there's no verdict. We come back on Monday. What do we expect on Monday?
I expect us to be talking again on Monday. I don't think there's going to be a verdict on Monday, but you never know. The jurors are not allowed to communicate over the weekend with each other or about anybody about this case. They're also instructed very strongly not to do any research or go on social media or the news. It's going to be hard for them not to see anything over the weekend. But they're not prevented from thinking about it, and sometimes a weekend alone and away from all the noise might help them maybe reconsider something that they haven't considered. But I don't think they've gone through all the exhibits yet. I think that's going to take some time, so I don't expect a verdict Monday either.
All right, we'll see what happens, but we'll be here.
Yeah.
Elyse and I will be here. We will be analyzing this case right up until the end. Elyse,
Yes.
Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks, Bob.